Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video. Bit of breaking news this time. West Ham are very close or are set to appoint a new technical director of football at the club. And his name, which I'm going to pronounce absolutely correct right now, is Tim Steidten. Obviously at Bayer Leverkusen, which I'm sure none of you were aware of, including us before we did our research. But here is what the news broke. Obviously Fabrizio Romano breaking it out earlier this afternoon, saying that we are set to appoint him. And he was actually wanted this year by other Premier League clubs, including Tottenham and Spurs, which we will show you right now here that we are not telling any fibs. And it was reported earlier this year that he was the one that FSG were looking at for Liverpool, and also Spurs just a month ago had him in their list of top three candidates for that sporting director role. So it seems like it's a good one, lads. Before we broke it down, we were kind of like, who is this person? We now know a lot more information about the man. So talk to me about Tim. What's the best things you guys have found during his stint at Bayer Leverkusen?
Go on, Sloth. You crack on first, mate.
I mean, the thing that I found with him is he's really good at picking up young players and just developing them, but he's been given the kind of reins in terms of Leverkusen. So while he's had a hand in players, one of the things that is rumoured, it's not totally confirmed, but is rumoured and heavily reported that he played a big part in their actual managerial appointment of Xabi Alonso, who when Leverkusen started the season, they were diabolical. They kind of looked at C, and given the talents that he had helped bring in, it was a real shock. So
similar to the West Ham story of this season, then.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I think is a big positive in this appointment. Player-wise, you only really have to look at the names. I mean, obviously, Florian Wirtz was an academy player, so he's not really a signing, but he has really been credited again with bringing him into the first team, developing him forward, and actually saying to previous managers, look, this is the guy to watch. This is going to be someone you want to build a squad around. And you look at, even in the summer, he brought in Adam Hozek, which is a name that many West Ham fans will know. Yeah. He had a bit of a slow start to his career, but he's really picked up the pace. Even players like Diaby and Hincapié, who are looking at going for huge fees around Europe, they are some really exciting names that was very much the driving force behind Leverkusen signing. So in terms of how he signs players, he very much looks towards big academies and signing younger players who they may not require much of a fee, or they may command like a 20 million euro one. In terms of Hincapié, I know he was relatively expensive.
About six. Well, depending on what you do, I think it's around about 6-ish million, but it's probably more.
I'm pretty sure it's also got a pretty tidy sell-on clause in there. Yeah. So if you're looking at, say, selling him on for, I think it's 50 million is the reported fee. Tapsoba again is another one. He might have been the one they paid 20 million euros for, but it's these brilliant young players that he brings in, and then they command massive fees. So
it's interesting because he wasn't actually a name that has been linked with the job for the West Ham position. There's been multiple names that we've actually reported on ourselves and got excited by. This one kind of went under the radar. So, Mike, now you've had a look at what he's going to bring. Good old Tim, as we'll call him. Does he excite you?
Timmy does kind of, I think he ticks the kind of boxes. What it's possibly elite, but also it's probably quite grounded in reality. As Sloth pointed out, Hulzek was a player that was talked about last season for us. Happens to obviously play for the team that our co-owner has, and Leverkusen bought him. So there is clearly, most probably, been an interaction between them two during that negotiation in which to take Hulzek from Sparta Prague to Leverkusen. There's probably been a very positive kind of conversations that went on during that process, because that was seamless to remember as well. He was literally one day rooted for West Ham and then within 2 days signing for them. So I imagine they kept probably some quite good relations there, and possibly is what's come about as to why this has come about. I think it's probably a deal that's maybe been brokered and made by our other co-owner, and then is brought to the club and said, I've got this deal, we need to make this. Yeah. Especially the fact that obviously if you've got teams like Liverpool, and as much as we hate to say it, Spurs, then if they're looking at him, they're looking at him because he's of a high caliber. And just because it's at Leverkusen and he's not, say, at a Bayern or a Dortmund, doesn't mean that we should look down on his qualities. You know, Sloth has just riddled off just a few names that he's brought on. But, Patrick Schick, we were looking at, bought him for like 20 odd million quid, looking at nearly sold him for like 60 million quid in the next one. He bought Serge Gnabry off for Arsenal when no one wanted to touch him for 5 million, sold him on for quite a few pennies to Bayern Munich down the line.
That was when he was at Werder Bremen, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when he said, yeah, exactly, when he's at Bremen. Frimpong's another one. Yeah. At the moment, probably one of the most exciting right backs in Europe at the moment, especially last season was fantastic. Brought in Callum Hudson-Odoi even. Brought him over on loan from Chelsea last season. So, as Sloth said, he looks for these younger players with something to prove that are looking to develop. And,
exactly what we need.
Exactly. One of the players we haven't called out is Diaby, who's now being talked about as a 60, 70 million pound player. Bought him for like £8 million out of the PSG youth system. So he's the kind of guy that will look across those elite youth systems and look at players and go, let's take one of those, because he knows that they're not going to get a chance. And if you give them the ability to excel, he'll do it. And he's obviously got a touch in the South American market because, Ezekiel Palacios out of River Plate, he brought over and went also and got, as we've said, and Hincapié also was another one they've gone for South America and done. He's clearly got an eye for a good player, and the fact that he has been one of those ones that has pushed through the likes of Wirtz, and it's clearly, that was at the time when he was pushing that agenda, would have been the time when Havertz was being talked about for Chelsea, and Leverkusen didn't want to sell, but he clearly made it very clear, if you sell him, we've got a better player in terms of that attacking midfield position already waiting in the wings. If he goes, it is fine. And it was. There was literally nothing changed for them. It was
this sounds like the perfect situation to come to a club like West Ham at, because we need to be making those kind of smart signings, those younger players that have that potential to develop into really good talents, aren't quite there yet, or aren't really getting that breakthrough to that big club. This would be the perfect situation where we could bring in 3-4 of those really exciting younger players, start integrating them into the squad. Because also, if the rumors are true that we aren't going to have much to spend other than what we actually sell this summer, we're going to have to be very, very smart with the money that we spend. So, Sloth, a question for you. Do you think that he has what it takes to be a success? I know it's very early, but is he the type of appointment that, again, excites you as a fan?
I think he's probably the perfect appointment, in my opinion. Just being totally honest, it's the sort of, when you look at the two clubs, Leverkusen are a really interesting side. They have a very rich past. Some might say, like us, their past is a bit more recent than ours, but it's the sort of club that has got a great fan base, and they've got a big old stadium as well, so they can attract certain players, but they are missing that financial weight that we perhaps have. Obviously, with those rumours around this window, it is, that's debatable. However, normally we have a bit more money to spend, and if you are saying to young players, you can come to London, we can give you a decent wage, and you're going to be getting first team minutes, potentially with European football as a regular thing. I think that is a huge coup for us.
And not that even not necessarily in fraud with the idea of signing for West Ham. It's that, again, we will be that stepping stone for you to go on to bigger things. There's no bigger league to advertise your talents than the Premier League. So if you have aspirations to be at a higher level, then proving yourself in the Premier League is absolutely the place in which to do so.
And I know that certain fans they won't want to hear that, and I totally understand that. However, what we're talking about when we mean stepping stones, we're talking about potentially pushing top 4, top 5, and then they're moving to a Real Madrid, they're moving to a Barcelona or a Bayern, a huge side, because that's the sort of thing you're looking at with Diaby, with a Florian Wirtz. It's those steps up in quality. That's not disrespectful to West Ham. It's just any football fan would tell you.
It's the next step, isn't it?
Yeah, and you have to look at Brighton, a very prime example of being utilised as that stepping stone. It's you will come in, we'll give you the place in which to grow, develop. Some of them have been brought in not in that respect, but others have, and they have seen themselves step up the league slowly but surely. They're able to buy a better quality of replacement than maybe what they would have done before. And they're able to increase the floor, so they can then start to smash through that glass ceiling. That's the thing. Yeah. It's raising the floor of your club.
I think as well, because it's like with Brighton, it'll be very easy for them to be stuck in that kind of loophole where the players kind of come in for 1 to 2 seasons max, and then they go on to another club. What we need to make sure we do in the long-term vision and long-term planning, I mean, we've now got a European for the 3rd season in a row. That's a massive, massive pull. And, having consistent European football for that long is not easy, and it's not something that most clubs will ever do. So what we need to do is make those smarter signings, like we're mentioning that good old Timmy will do. And then we also need to then be in a position where, okay, we are now an established, maybe top 6, 7 team for a consistent period of time, where we can then attract bigger names, a little bit more established figures that will be coming in, and then it will just take the burden off of those departures when it inevitably happens. But yeah, it's exciting. What's your guys' kind of final thoughts on it? Because it's something that came out of the blue today, and it's definitely an exciting one with the window opening actually today.
I think just going back to that point about Brighton, I think it's a really interesting comparison to make, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to Brighton. Great place, great day out, all of that sort of thing. Lovely place to live as well. If you're looking for a new house, down by the coast, go ahead. But if you're offering a young player from abroad a place to live, and you say London or Brighton, they're gonna choose London 9 times out of 10. Yeah. And that's one of the things that is for me is really interesting about this deal. And yes, Brighton have really come on leaps and bounds as a club, and they'll probably continue to do so if they keep up this incredible recruitment. But we're just stepping into that level of recruitment, and we're already pushing those European places, or we've got a trophy under our belt. So I think for any young player coming in, that's a huge that's something that's really impressive. And it's a huge factor in them wanting to join us in comparison to Brighton, who, they don't have a very big ground. The Amex is lovely, but it is very, very small. And, it's not London at the end of the day. It's the draw to come to London over Brighton on an international stage is far bigger. So for me, I think it's a really exciting one, particularly when you look at, say, some of the positions that we need to look at long term, particularly wing backs. His success rate in signing wing backs and centre backs is second to none. Second to none, I would say. I mean, it's a really impressive list of. I mean, my favourite centre back at the moment is Tapsoba, who he is directly responsible for signing, and those kind of players, Diaby and Tapsoba, they're what we want to move towards. These players with great potential, but also current ability, and nurturing that sort of talent is what will get us potentially another trophy or moving up those places in competition. So for me, I think it's a fantastic appointment.
Mike, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think, when you look at his history, he's got a fantastic history of, scouting and that knowledge. Clearly, when you look at the players he's brought in over the years, again, some fantastic names in there as well, and that have been developed. Obviously, you do need a manager who's willing to maybe work with younger talent and to develop them, because that has essentially been his kind of modus operandi, essentially, by these young 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and then develop them. So you do need a manager that is willing to work within that. So that is possibly, you know, if we could try and pull some sort of negative out of it, that maybe is the bone of contention that we'll see in any kind of moving forward. But, you know, it would explain why we've been linked back with Jonathan Tah. The fact that that's come back, because if we're looking to bring him in, and if he is looking to sign, it's great. I think as well, he clearly has a great eye for a manager, because what Xabi Alonso has managed to do after getting that team involved into what he wants, they play some fantastic football in this 3-4-3 formation. Again, his ability to spot a player is great. Clearly an advocate for what is coming through internally when you look at what he's done with like Wirtz. So again, that's another encouraging thing, that I don't think we've had enough advocates internally at West Ham about youth players. Granted, not all have been to the right standard, but over the years, we could have given at least one or two a bit more of a try to earn a bit more money. So I think, again, he will do that as well, be the advocate for that. And potentially also improve where we send players on loan, for instance. Maybe have some more connections in Germany, which means some of our players actually get out to the Bundesliga, play in a real high-quality league to see how they perform. So all in all, I think he could be really, really positive. And I think, you know, heaven forbid our season starts like it did last season, and then, you know, we have that same conversation looking for a manager.
Yeah.
Based on how he's pushed forward with Alonso, who was only at Real Sociedad B the season before last, and to take that leap and bring him into the Bundesliga, granted the league he's played in, but he took the leap to bring in arguably, you know, an inexperienced manager to a top-end German team. That shows there is a level of confidence in his decisions to even go for something that's maybe, I guess, slightly left field, or maybe less seen as safe. And that, for me, I like that, because I think that shows a very much definite, certain belief in what you are trying to do. And
yeah,
even though others may naysay it, you're like, no, this is the route. And I think that's something commendable, especially at that level, especially at working at our club. I think you need to have someone who can do that, who isn't maybe even afraid to do a bit of wheeling and dealing. When we talk about these players he's brought in, most of them are sub 10, 15 million pounds. And we're talking about these players now as 50, 60 plus million pound players. So that's the route you need to go down in football if you want to push up the league, unless you've got stupid money. That is the way you thrive, really, and move up divisions and leagues.
Well, hopefully it will be a successful appointment. Hopefully this has given you guys a bit of a rundown into who good old Timmy is and what he's going to bring to West Ham this summer moving forward. So yeah, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are new around here. And lads, one thing left to say.
Come on, you Irons.